Hello, Ljubljana. This is Christoph Deeg speaking from Germany, Cologne. I am not attending at your conference, and I'm very sorry about that. But I have to stay in Cologne because my daughter came about 3 weeks earlier than expected. So I'm a very, very proud father of a 3 weeks old girl. But we have to deal with some very extreme complications, and therefore I have to stay here and to take care of, about my wife and my daughter. So I was really looking forward to meet you all, to talk to you, and of course to visit Ljubljana. And I hope that this is not the last chance to do this. But today we have to um, live with the situation that I and the wonderful team from your conference decided to produce this video so that you can see what I was thinking or I am thinking about, and that we can maybe have a discussion online about these ideas. Um, at the end of this presentation, I will give you some information about how to reach me online, an example on Twitter or via email, so that maybe we can start that conversation directly after that session. Let me start with some information about me. I'm a consultant and speaker for social media gamification and digital strategies, and I am, among others, are consulting libraries all around the world. Within the last 5 years, I was working with more than 150 libraries in Europe, in Germany, in Europe, but also in Africa and Asia. And so I know a lot about libraries, and I also know a lot about the future of libraries, or I have an idea about what the future of libraries could look like. And as I am not a librarian in that way that I studied this topic or I was working as a librarian in a library, I have sometimes a different perspective on that topic and on the field. And I think it can be helpful to have a more kind of um, intercultural and interdisciplinary discussion about the future of libraries, because finally we need to create these kind of communities so that the discussions about the library is not only held by those who are working in the library, but with those who are using libraries or might use libraries in the future. So let me start with my presentation right now. So here we are. Um, I've chosen this picture because it's showing me, of course, yes, but it gives you a good insight about what a superhero idea is. And of course, we always, a superhero seems to be a very strong person, and there seems to be something magical with him or with her. And of course, superheroes are something or are persons that are very different to normal humans. And that's the reason why some people like them, some others hate them. And by the way, this pic was made at the Gamescom in Cologne, which is probably it is the biggest gaming convention in Europe. More than 250,000 people are coming to that fair every year. As a librarian, it should be a standard to be there and to learn from what you see. So, but I will not talk about gaming and the Gamescom today. It was just my starting point. So if we think about librarians as superheroes, we need to find out what makes a superhero a superhero. And let me focus on two topics, two ideas that, from my personal perspective, are the most important ones when you think about it. The one is superpower. So we have a situation that superheroes have superpower. So the question is, what does superpower mean? And I would say superpower means the ability to do things that others are unable to do. Uh, of course, this doesn't sound so huge, it doesn't sound so magical, but I think it really is it's really a good definition, especially if we think from the perspective of librarians, because from the perspective of librarians, we need to find out what do librarians really know better, what ability do librarians have that others do not have. So I've chosen some picks from superpower versions, and I found out that there are two categories of superpower. One superpower is the power of those superheroes whose body was changed, like Spider-Man, who is a mix between a human and a spider right now. The other version is the version of Batman or Iron Man. That means people that use their intelligence to create special tools and special suits and stuff like that to beat the evil. And these two versions of superheroes are relevant and both are interesting if you try to compare the field of superheroes with the field of libraries. And if you think about the question, it's the second important point. How do people become a superhero? And of course, there's a small group of people that becomes a superhero because they come from a place where their superpower is something normal, but in comparison to humans, it is something special. Imagine Superman or Thor, which is a good example for this. But normally there is a trigger. Something happens to them and it changes their body. It gives them the superpower, things like Fantastic Four, an example, or it changes their targets, the way they think, the way they feel. And so one version is the version of Spider-Man. Here's a picture from the Spider-Man movie from Columbia Pictures. And it's just very short. It shows the spider that will bite Parker very soon, and then he has this metamorphosis, and his body becomes a mixture between human and a spider. Then you've got the young Bruce Wayne who's has to see how his parents are killed by criminals in Gotham, and that makes him decide to fight crime in Gotham. And this is a trigger that doesn't give him new power in the field of his body, but it gives him power to be strong in following his targets, and uh, it makes him become part of an ongoing process of fighting these things. And if you think, if you know something about the comic, it's something that always comes up on Batman, whether he sometimes loses his targets, and it's just it's just too deep into this thing and this trigger. And then you've got the Iron Man with this guy Mr. Stark, who's very popular and very famous and successful in building weapons and selling weapons, and then get kidnapped and injured, and he needs to build something, a suit, to survive and to flee from his kidnappers, which is successful, and then he starts creating new suits, and Iron Man is born. So if we take these two things, the actual situation that they have superpower and the trigger, we need to think about the question what this means for librarians, for libraries, or how library superheroes could look like. So I think if you think about the question how how a librarian become a superhero, we need to think about what makes a library first. I truly believe a library has nothing to do with books. So a good, or I would to say in a better way, a good library works without books, because what a library finally does is creating context. So the book is about content, and the library is able or has the ability to create digital and analog content. That's, to be honest, one of the superpowers that I see in the future for libraries. And it has nothing to do with lending books, because lending books is something everyone can do everywhere in the world, and especially with the flat rate systems and upcoming online book selling system, book renting systems, we will have a situation that sooner or later libraries have to think about new services and new ideas of how they work it. And it's also not about having the possibility, giving the people the possibility to play a game in the library. So that's also nice and an important thing. But these two pictures that you've seen right now and the one before are taken in my flat, and of course my flat is not a library, and I'm not a librarian. Um, so what is the if we understand that the ability to create context and if this is one of the superpower that a library superhero in the future will need, then we need to talk about the trigger. And I truly believe the most important trigger for all librarians in the world is the digitization. And the big problem, the big challenge in digitization is that on the one hand, it's a global transformation process which is finally made of analog people. There are no machines doing this transformation process. It is a process made of people. If you have a look on Facebook, Facebook never posted any content, maybe some support content, but finally, Facebook never posted any content in the internet. Human beings, people in the analog world are using Facebook to share these into communities. So we are talking about a digital analog transformation process. And the platforms or the companies that are part of this project are most of the times misunderstood as the new evil. So for some librarians and some other people, Amazon, Google, and Co. are the new demons that came on earth to fight the humans in our culture. It's like, that's the reason why I've taken these two evil creatures from the superhero movies, the Joker and the other guy from the Spider-Man movie. And of course, it has nothing to do with Amazon. Of course not. Amazon, all the others, they are competitors, of course, and they know their job very well. And if you think about the situation that Amazon is now opening stores in the analog world, bookstores in the analog world, but then you understand that we are only at the beginning of this transformation process. And this transformation process is again made of analog people, not of machines. And the only thing that the companies like Amazon and Google know better than libraries is they know more about the complexity of the life reality of the people. So going back to librarian superpower, we need to understand there is a life reality of the people around us, the communities that libraries are working for, and this life reality is very different to the life reality of most of the libraries, because this life reality doesn't make doesn't see any competition between the analog and the digital world. There is no competition. There's only a cooperational process, and both sides, analog and digital, are part of the life reality of the people. And it can be that there are some people where the analog part is bigger, and some people will have a bigger digital part, but it is a digital analog life reality. And if libraries in the future want to serve their communities well, they need to become compatible with this new structure. So what can you as a librarian do? The first thing is you have to learn. You have to be able to use digital platforms and digital services as good as the analog ones, as good as reading. When reading is one of the core competence of the last century, then the ability to use digital technologies is another new core competence, which is as important as the ability to read. So if you are a professional librarian, you need to have this ability. Otherwise, you're no longer a professional librarian, and you're unable to support the people in your community, and you're unable to do something for the future of your library. Use the force, use the possibilities that the digital world show you, because most of them are for free. Of course, it needs resources, money, and some other things to work with them. It means time. We need time to learn how they work, and it needs time to use them. But on the other side, there's in the history of human beings, there's never been a time before where access to billions of data was possible like the way we have it now. Every hour, 7,000 hours of YouTube content, 7,000 hours are uploaded on YouTube. Every hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So forget all the structures, all the ways you were working in the last years. Understand that this kind of trying to formalizing and structuring data and information will not work in the future any longer. We have to find new ways, and if you as a librarian need to be the or should be the person who starts to try out new ways in the beginning, not at the end of the system. And if you think that you're too old for this, if you think that it has nothing to do with the job or the job that you have chosen some years or decades before, I'm with you. I absolutely understand that this is a problem because it has something to do with your personal cultural identity. But believe it or not, it's not about burning books. It's not about bringing them away. It is using books and give them back. The digital world give the books their magic back again. That's the most important thing to understand, because now when people are able to choose which platform they use to learn, then the book becomes a new magical thing. But to be the person who supports the people on understanding this magic, you need to be able to understand the other magical ways too. So whenever you think about you're too old for this, or you should not learn it, or you ask yourself, why do I have to learn all this new stuff? Then ask yourself, how can you teach someone if you're unable to learn? And how can you make others curious about something if you're never curious about the things that come up in your environment? Because that's your environment, that's happening around you, not in another planet. Create unique experiences. Ask yourself, ask your colleagues in your library, what can we as a library do which is a unique experience that only we as a library can bring to the people? You will find out that most of the services have are not unique. That's not a problem. Lots of people love libraries. I love libraries, but find out, in example, how can you use gaming, social media, books, and so on to create a unique experience and create unique services. Create something that you can only get at the library. Create unique context. Whenever you think about the digital world, people are telling you content is king. I would say context is king. And context is something that libraries can do much better than any other institution in the world, because that's something that you did for the last 2,500 years. So this is my last slide. It is about the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. It is not an advice for a new management for music, but if you think about these two bands, if you think about their music, you will find out even their music is great and interesting and powerful. Finally, it works with the guitar and the fireplace. If you know the song and you've got a guitar, sit down at the fireplace and it has this magic. All the other things, the arrangements, bigger bands and stuff like that, they are wonderful, they're important, but at the end, each song from the Beatles and the Stones, especially from the Beatles to be honest, work with a guitar at the fireplace. And this is something that is absolutely comparable to the libraries. A library of the future means go back to the core idea of what a library is about, creating contents, sharing ideas, be the place where people learn, where people save their ideas. That's the most important issue. So here you've got some information about how to reach me online. There's the Twitter.com account, there's the christophdeeg.com, which is my blog, and there's the email address, and now I'm changing back so that you can see my face again. Here I am, I'm still there. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conference. As I said, let me repeat my idea and my concept. Librarians can be superheroes. Maybe they're not at the moment, but they can be superheroes in the future if they understand the digitization is their partner, their helper, and it may be the trigger for most of the colleagues that you'll find in your libraries. The second thing is the superpower that libraries can have is creating a platform, creating places, creating services that have a special value for the community, which means the libraries are the places to create context and to support the people wherever the people want to get better. That's a very, very important thing. If you follow this path, you will become the super library heroes of the world. And believe me, we need you. We need you more than ever, because right now there's no one who's trying to have an idea how to develop, how to become part of this process that we call the digital analog transformation of our society. I wish you a wonderful time, Ljubljana. Hope to hear from you soon, and hope to come back to you or to meet you sometime, someday in real. Bye bye. See you.